Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Rob Thacker. I'm the music director here. And please join with me in singing hymn 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Please rise and embody your spirit. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Open, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Please rise as you're willing and able and join me in reciting our chalice lighting by Dale Hudson. This is a house of reflection and contemplation, of joy and sorrow, friendship, sharing, and laughter. We light this chalice in remembrance of what we have been and in the hope of what we may become. Thank you.
Welcome to St. John's Unitarian Universalist Church on this beautiful day. Take a minute, settle in, and take a deep breath as we transition from entering to being in this space. I'm Edie Holder, today's worship associate and the chair of the transition team. Today is an important service. We're celebrating the fact that we've been Unitarian for 100 years. Our history, I'll try again. I know I'm not supposed to touch the microphone. I've been given instructions. I don't want to go against those instructions. Where was I? So today, we're celebrating the fact that St. John's is 100 years old. We've been 100 years Unitarian. We've been a congregation for 210 years. And Carl Sagan said, "You have to know the past to understand the present." So we welcome everyone, young and old, thick and thin, of all spiritual persuasions, gay, straight, and everything in between, everyone seeking community and on the path towards truth. And I want to close the opening with a small writing by Theodore Parker, a Unitarian minister of the 19th century. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. its profession of faith, divine living.
Please arise and bow to your spirit, and we will sing hymn 287, Faith of the Larger Liberty.
Now we'll say our affirmation. I'll try to stand right near. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands.
We're not going to sing the children out because they stay for stones for joys and concerns. So just bear with. I'd like to invite any children or anyone who would like to come forward for our story. But no, this is a participatory one, so you all are invited to participate, even if you stay where you are. It's also okay just to stay where you are if you'd rather. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Reverend Eisenlohr. He was a minister here 100 years ago, and he gave a sermon called What I Believe. Now, we know that Unitarians today sometimes find it challenging to pin down exactly what we believe about those big questions, or at least what we believe today. But we're gonna ask a few questions, and I'm gonna invite everyone to participate, and you can raise your hand. And because we are Unitarian Universalists, you can raise your hand with degrees. If you feel very strongly, if you think maybe, but If you're like, oh, I kind of like the idea, but I doubt it. And if you're firmly against, ready? So the first one is, I believe in a god or goddess, some sort of higher power. And you can raise your hand way up or middle, just your degrees, you pick. So some people, yeah. And I don't believe in any sort of supernatural being or higher power. Okay, some strong beliefs there, but not all. What about life after death? So I believe that when we die, there's something afterwards. Yeah, so maybe? I don't know. There we go. And I don't believe in that at all. Okay? And I'm not sure, but I have a hope one way or another. I thought that might help. And what about, if there is some trouble? I heard that. We can schedule a pastoral care appointment later. I believe that we all have some spirit or soul or something different within us that makes us unique. Okay? A lot of at least partial beliefs in that one. And I don't believe in that at all. That's too supernatural. Okay? And let's see, one more. What about faith? Faith is a word that I find value in, and whatever that means for you. Okay? Yeah? Faith is a word that kind of rubs me the wrong way. Didn't really like that last song, did you? So one of the things that I'm hoping that we, as members and friends of St. John's, can do over the next year is spend a little more time talking to one another about what we believe or wonder or kind of maybe possibly think might be true. We have found that Unitarian Universalists are kind of bad at doing that. And our current president, Reverend Sophia Bentecourt, she suggested that it's because we fear losing one another. But I think we can do that. We can find the strength in discovering what other people find important. So I hope you will join me as one of the many journeys we will take over this next year. And we will hear from Reverend Eisenlohr later. All right, we're not going to sing the children out, but we will release you so you can come back for joys and stones. Stones of joys and concern. St. John's has been here in Cincinnati touching lives for more than 200 years. We are the spiritual descendants of those who came before. We are the spiritual ancestors of those who will be a part of this community in another 200 years. And because we recognize that it is the people who make up our church, we set aside part of our time together during every service to honor the joys and concerns that have come into our lives in the past week. Here at St. John's, we do this by coming forward to place stones representing all that we carry, and to the sand representing the many and unique parts of our beloved community over all of the generations. If you're here in the sanctuary and would like to leave a joy or concern to be read, please place it on the table. If you're online, you can enter a joy or concern in the chat that you would like shared, and we will read them all from the pulpit. for all of the joys and concerns that haven't been expressed, and we light the candle for everything shared here today. We have 2 joys today. Joy from Wanda that 2 Found House families moved into their own apartments this week. She says, we first met them in December. Gratitude to our hosting at First UCC College Hill. To our partners, hosting partners. And Alicia says, happy Beltane. I'm grateful to have met my husband during this weekend 26 years ago, and we were married with the help of Reverend Frank Carpenter 17 years ago at the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center. Congratulations. We are going to skip singing the children out and just keep on moving. Our meditation today is by Laura Reardon Berard. May we find love in this place, love in our hearts, love for the broken down, love for the lonely, love for those yet to feel whole, love for those in between, love for those out of reach. May we find love, add love, and be love in this world. Amen.
Our offering words today are from Reverend Erica Hewitt. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It is an opportunity to recommit to this place and to this people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation as tools to empower our mission. St. John's is committed to creating a safe and caring community, working for peace and social justice, and celebrating beliefs that respect freedom of thought. Charles will come up to give us an update on the pledge campaign.
Well, I may be breaking a covenant of the UUA or this congregation to reveal what my stone in the bowl was about this morning, but it was gratitude to everyone for pledging more quickly this year. It really helps. In the past, your pledge team has taken a long time to gather everybody's pledges. And this big improvement has helped the Board of Trustees and Chris Wagner to begin a realistic budget planning process earlier in the year. We are still hoping for a few more pledges to get us closer to our goal. And of course, we'd welcome anyone who would like to increase their pledge for the coming year. It's never too late. Finally, we need to be looking forward to the next steps already, thanks to your timely action and bold and not just generous, but courageous and strong. I can feel that. But the next steps are the budget process, and you'll notice in the e-news the first congregation meeting on the budget is 7 p.m. on Wednesday, May 8th. There are more details in this current e-news. And it's important to be aware that these are all major steps in our responsibility as Unitarian Universalists. UUs have congregational polity. That means that our governance is based here in this congregation, everybody. We chart our own course with no funding from outside, and it's always up to us. So we appreciate your generosity as the cornerstone of that. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Debbie Combs, and I volunteer as St. John's historian. So today we're celebrating our 100th anniversary as a Unitarian church. Since Reverend Hugo Eisenlohr encouraged the congregation to join the American Unitarian Association, today you'll hear about him. For an e-news article about St. John's path to becoming a Unitarian church, I wrote about Reverend Kroll. He was a liberal minister who led the congregation for 33 years. When he died, Reverend Schultz took his place in 1875. According to a history written by Reverend Eisenlohr in 1934, Reverend Schultz vacillated between a moderately liberal and an orthodox standpoint. Soon, a process of disintegration set in. There was no open revolt, no split in the church, but gradually a number of families withdrew. During this time, Dr. Charles Wendt was minister of First Unitarian Church, and being able to speak German attracted quite a number of the most influential families of St. John's. Reverend Eisenlohr states, "I would not, however, be understood as intimating that Dr. Wendt deliberately sought to take members away from St. John's." Reverend Schultz was rather inclined to favor that of the evangelical churches. After the many years of Reverend Kroll's ministry, this didn't satisfy them. Reverend Schultz resigned suddenly after 9 years of ministry. So it's important to know about him because I think Reverend Schultz weighed on Reverend Eisenlohr's mind. So continuing with Reverend Eisenlohr's history, the congregation, again, most disorganized. The elements remaining were very heterogeneous and the church debt quite heavy. Fortunately, the Board of Trustees were level-headed men who saw that if they went into a competition of candidates for the vacant pulpit, they would be inviting new difficulties. So without having seen or heard him, they extended a call to Reverend Hugo Eisenlohr then pastor of St. John's in Wheeling, West Virginia. In 1884, he found a rather numerous element that was outspokenly Orthodox, others who still remembered Reverend Kroll. He also found a church debt of almost $30,000 and a membership of nobody knew how many. For one of the first things that confronted the minister was the task of establishing who was a member and who was not. A long list of names was handed to him of people who had been members at one time, but whose present standing was very doubtful. It finally developed that a little less than 200 members remained in good standing, while the board had been under the impression that there were about 350. But there was still another, perhaps even more difficult question to be settled. For all these years, the congregation had been entirely independent. Reverend Eisenlohr was increasingly worried by the thought that he might be doing purely personal work that would be thrown into discard when he was gone. But he was not satisfied with this condition of things. So in 1922, in his annual report to the congregation, he touched upon the question. He bluntly stated that he could not be satisfied with the thought of doing personal work only, but that he was serving a cause. He asked them where they would look for a successor to take up the work. Some saw in this a threat to resign, but he assured them that he only wanted to set them thinking. In the following year, the minister was out of the pulpit for about 2 months due to ill health. During this time, the services were continued, first week by a Presbyterian minister, the following week by a Reformed minister. Fortunately, Reverend Eisenlohr was able to attend the annual meeting and read his report, in which he again pointed out that the congregation, being absolutely independent, had no place to turn in case of need. That had been strikingly demonstrated during his absence from the pulpit. After the meeting, a number of people came to him saying, "You said last year you wanted to set us thinking, and we've been thinking. The only place we can see is the Unitarian Church." The minister did not commit himself, but said, "You know where I stand. Any action which the congregation takes must come from them without any pressure from me." A meeting of the congregation was called to discuss the question. After the discussion, it was unanimously resolved to affiliate with the American Unitarian Association, although the congregation did lose about 4 members out of 400. Reverend Eisenlohr concludes his history pointing out that the congregation has always participated in the movements for community welfare. I believe he would be happy to know about St. John's social justice activities, like working with immigrants, Found House, and more over the years. So, hey, Reverend Eisenlohr, if you're out there somewhere in the cosmos listening, becoming a Unitarian church turned out as you had hoped.
One thing that delights me in any congregation I serve is learning about those who have stood in the pulpit before me. Here at St. John's, that has been easier than in some places, as we have a congregational historian, Debbie, and others who've worked over the years to piece together the story of our history. And it's because of Debbie that I learned of Reverend Hugo Eisenlohr, who served here, as you know, 100 years ago, both before and after we were officially Unitarian. And so in honor of our 100th anniversary of being a Unitarian congregation, I want to read a sermon that Reverend Hugo Eisenlohr offered to our congregation in November of 1921. When I first read this sermon, I saw his Unitarian and his Universalist beliefs shining through, even though some of the words he used might not be ones we would hear in most Unitarian Universalist pulpits today. Eisenlohr held both Unitarian and Universalist views more than 40 years before the joint Unitarian and Universalist Association formed. As you listen to his sermon this morning, I encourage you to pay attention to what is Unitarian and Universalist in his beliefs. And if you're like me, you might spend some time thinking about how what he said and believed echoes into who we are today. And for those of you who might be less familiar with our history, Unitarians were Christians and were considered heretical by many other Christians. They highly valued reason in their approach to the Bible. They believed in Jesus, but did not believe he was part of God in the way that Trinitarians do. For them, Jesus was special, closer to God than others, and was a teacher. And the Unitarians held a variety of beliefs about other matters, including the possibility of hell and the consequences of sin. And another historical group of heretical Christians were the Universalists. Their defining feature was that they believed in universal salvation. Everybody would be saved, nobody would be damned to hell. They couldn't imagine a loving God sending anyone to eternal punishment. Unlike the Unitarians, they were Trinitarian and believed in Jesus as a part of God. But some Universalists believed that once you died, you joined God right away. Others believed there would be a period of time during which you would be restored, the restorationists. Sin, or that which was separating you from God, would be wiped away, and then you would join God. So those are the two heretical Christian groups, the Unitarians and the Universalists, that eventually joined to form our tradition of Unitarian Universalism, which has gone through some changes, as you probably understand. Reverend Eisenlohr clearly shared some views with both groups when he preached his sermon called What I Believe over 100 years ago. Now, just to remind you that I am not Reverend Eisenlohr, and some of these things might not be what you would hear from my pulpit, I will put on my Eisenlohr costume. See if I can do this without completely embarrassing myself. Don't make me laugh. Does it look okay? No. They approve. I'm not sure he would put on his mustache with mascara, but you do what you need. This is titled, What I Believe. For over 60 years, this congregation has been an independent one and has been unwilling to accept one or the other of the many creeds of Christendom and make it the condition of membership. The consequence has been that it has been accused of being heretical, a band of unbelievers. It has been claimed that I do not believe this and that I deny that, so that one unfamiliar with the work which this congregation has been endeavoring to do might well be led to believe that its sole object was to deny what others affirm. You recognize some things. Neither this congregation nor I personally have ever assumed such an attitude, and it is liable on the congregation and its object to make such an assertion. In all the 37 years of my pastorate, I have never felt called upon to do a negative work, but a positive one. I have never been busy tearing down, but have endeavored to build up. I have at least attempted, with what measure of success you must determine, to labor in the spirit of Jesus. I have not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Will you permit me on this anniversary day to give you a brief and, of necessity, meager sketch of what I and I believe you as well believe. Ours is not a religion which consists of negations, but rather of affirmations. I believe in God. It seems almost trite to say that, but I would say it with emphasis. We believe in that God who has never ceased to reveal himself to his children. He spoke in the days of old through the mouths of sages and prophets, and still speaks to us through inspired men and women. We believe in that God who reveals himself ever more clearly as we come to understand his universe better and better. We would read and understand, as far as the human mind can do, the language of God in the divine order of his creation, in the grand harmony that pervades it all. In him we believe, whose moral law we see clearly illustrated in the destiny of nations, as history has recorded it, and in our own conscience, where he speaks to us as the Holy One, punishing every infraction of his law, but showing himself to be full of compassion and mercy as soon as we turn from our evil ways, seeking the arms of that Father who is ever ready to speak, "Thy sins are forgiven." That is the God whom our religious experience brings very close to us. And how can we but believe that which we have experienced? Why, in him we live and move and have our being. We believe in the God whom Jesus revealed as the Father, the preserver of all, from whom and to whom are all things. He may not be the God whom the Church of the Middle Ages taught, but he is our God, a very real one, real because we have experienced him. He does not live far away beyond the clouds, reaching down to earth from time to time when things go wrong, but lives in his creation, in us, the breath of our life, the soul of the universe. In this God we believe. If there is one thing which Jesus taught clearly and with emphasis, it is this: God is love. Love, then, is not one of his attributes. Love is the essence of his being. Therefore, I cannot believe in a God whose anger at the sins of the world can only be appeased by a bloody sacrifice, and that's the sacrifice of an innocent one that the guilty might escape. I can and I do believe and trust in the God whom Jesus showed us, the Father who is ever ready to pardon, who did not demand of the prodigal son that he believe in a vicarious atonement before he would forgive him, but who, when his son returned full of remorse and contrition and humility, seeking to be accepted as a laborer, went out to meet him and greeted him as his son. And who will dare to say that I do not believe in Jesus? That is the accusation most commonly hurled at us. Not believe in him? Whither shall we go? Thou hast words of eternal life, exclaimed his disciple, and so say I. It is not the legendary Jesus that attracts me, nor the Jesus that is the product of doctrines which at a later time formulated concerning him, but the Jesus who walked in Galilee, who sat at the shores of the Sea of Gennesaret, who went about doing good, who sought the people that he might give them light and comfort on their journey through life. I believe with all my heart in that Jesus who lived a life of such transcendent purity that later ages raised him to the very throne of God, did so in a mistaken ardor which desired to do him honor. I believe in the Jesus who is my elder brother and gave us an example that we might follow in his footsteps. In him who said, "Thereby shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye love one another." In him who, when he was addressed as good master, answered, "Why callest thou me good? None is good save one, even the Father." I believe in him who did not hesitate to say, "The Father is greater than I." I believe in that Jesus who, when he was passing through that awful passion at the close of his life, in which he needed all the strength that he could muster, went out and, falling on his knees, prayed, "Not my will, thy will be done," giving us an example of such unquestioning submission to the will of God that it has the power to strengthen and to comfort us in all the trials of life. We are told that we do not believe in the divinity of Jesus. What I have said shall disprove this assertion. I do not believe in his deity, but I know of no diviner life than that which he lived. God cannot be an example for me to follow. I am but human. But Jesus, the divine human being, shows me the divine possibilities of the human soul, inspires me to God-like life. Do not lift him up into the sky where I cannot reach him. Do not take him from me. Leave me that elder brother who has shown me so clearly the possibilities that lie slumbering in the human soul. Yes, I believe in Jesus. And I turn reverently to the great book which contains the only record of that divine life, the Bible, the book filled with the utterances of men inspired by their conception of God and his truth, which contains religious experiences of the first people who turned from worship of many gods to that of the only living God, has a value for me that no other book possesses. There is no experience that can come to me in which this book may not be my guide, in which it has not some comfort to offer me, in which it may not inspire me with strength, courage, and trust. I know that there are recorded differing conceptions of God, of life, of duty, for it is a record of progress, not complete from first to last. I am fully aware of the fact that slavery is sanctioned in the Old Testament, and that the human sacrifice is there recorded as having been demanded by God. And because of these things, it is not possible for me to look upon it as upon a book to whose every word I must give assent. I cannot hold that it is the authority in matters of science, as when it relates in beautiful allegory the creation of the world, for instance. But I turn to this greatest of all books not for information on scientific matters, but for comfort in my trials, for the strengthening of my faith and trust, and it never fails me. That there are other sacred writings which contain much that is good, that there are other books which deserve to be called inspired, which are inspired, because they breathe the Spirit of God. This in no way detracts from the value of this sacred volume for us. But Jesus himself said, I have yet many things to say unto you, but ye cannot bear them now. But the Spirit of truth shall guide you in all truth. And so we submit to the guidance of the Spirit of truth and follow its leading, firmly convinced that God has never ceased to speak to his children, speaks to them today as clearly as he did in the days of old. I would not then make of the Bible, highly as I regard it, a fetish that must be worshipped. But my reverence for the sacred volume is no smaller than this. If a belief in the absolute infallibility of the Bible is the standard by which true Christians must be measured, then the disciples of the first centuries were no Christians, as the New Testament, which is of supreme importance to us, was still in the making. Yes, I believe in the Bible, but cannot believe that reason must be discarded in its interpretation. And my belief in immortality is not only a comfort, it is a source of inspiration to me. It has been said that only when the physical resurrection of Jesus is accepted as established fact can there be an unwavering belief in immortality. That in this fact alone is found assurance of life eternal. Did not Jesus teach this? Did he make it dependent upon something that was to happen in the future? I think not. I believe in immortality, in the progress of mankind, and of the individual man onward and upward forever. That implies there is no room in my belief for an everlasting hell, for the eternal damnation of the sinner. That doctrine is a libel on God. No father, not even the most depraved, would condemn his child to unending punishment for the infraction of his commands. How could God, the heavenly Father, of whom Jesus said that he is love, consign his child to eternal suffering? I do believe that no sin will go unpunished, that each one is followed of necessity by its consequences, and that these consequences are never good. But the object of all punishment, its real object, is not the infliction of pain. The object is to bring us to a realization of our wrong and to lead us to better things. In other words, it is to lead us onward and upward toward perfection. Perfection that is the final goal of man, and to reach this we need eternity. To aid us in our endeavors, not to cause us pain, punishment follows our transgressions. I believe that death makes no radical change in man as he passes out of this life. So will he enter the next. But the opportunity to make progress will be his there. Greater, better opportunity probably than was his here. If there is one thing of which I am deeply convinced, it is this, that death is not utter destruction. The same love of God which blesses me here, for God's love is unchangeable and unending, an even greater opportunity than I have known will be mine there. And finally, I believe that no one church has the whole truth. It ill becomes us to look down upon others for the sake of their beliefs. We follow the light as we see it, but we are not vain enough to contend that there can be no truth outside our church. We believe that all are Christians who endeavor to live in the spirit of Jesus, believe that salvation comes by character, and that the true discipleship is determined not by our opinions, but rather by our life. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. It is not belief, but faith that determines our value as Christians, and there can be no faith without faithfulness. Mold your opinions as best you can, accept whatever creed you can if you must have one, but be faithful to God, faithful in your endeavor to live in the light of the truth which Jesus taught in the Beatitudes, in the Sermon on the Mount, and above all, never condemn a man on account of his religious views. Do you know the beautiful story of the 3 rings, which Lessing relates in his immortal Nathan der Wise? English translation is Nathan the Wise. It is this: a father was in possession of a ring that had the magic power of making him who wore it beloved by all with whom he came into contact. He had 3 sons and loved them all alike. Feeling that his end was drawing near, he found himself unable to determine to which of the 3 sons he should bequeath the magic ring. So he caused 3 rings to be made, all resembling the original one, so closely that the deception could not be detected, and then presented one of the rings to each son. After his death, each one of the sons claimed to be in possession of the magic ring, and as they could come to no agreement, they left the matter with a wise judge for his decision. The wise man said, "The true ring, I understand, has the power of making him who wears it beloved by all. Then wear your rings, and the true one will readily be discovered by its mysterious power. Let us wear our ring. If our religion will gain for us the love and respect of men, of God's children, we need not be disturbed about our beliefs, nor by the fact that others refuse to recognize us as Christians. Let us follow the light which God has given us, as indeed we must, for we cannot walk in the light which others have. Following the light, we see God. Amen." Gotta take off my costume now. Oh, no. Is it good? Oh, no.
A little bit more wiping needed.
There we go. Baby wipes for the win. Just a few short years after Eisenlohr preached his What I Believe sermon, our congregation here at St. John's joined the American Unitarian Association. And later, as Debbie told us, Eisenlohr wrote a history of St. John's Unitarian Church that was read at the Western Unitarian Conference Historical Society. If you're interested in reading the full thing, reach out to Debbie, or you can reach out to me, because she sent me a copy. It is quite fascinating. But for now, I just want to share with you a little bit of its conclusion. Eisenlohr wrote, "I would say that the congregation may look back upon 120 years of splendid work, in spite of all the difficulties which beset its path. It is still, as it long has been, one of the really influential churches of the large and flourishing city. It has furnished a lieutenant governor of the state, a number of judges, representatives to Congress and to the state legislature, a mayor, numerous city and county officials, a number of members of the Board of Education. It has always participated in the movements for community welfare and has often been represented in these movements. It looks forward to many more years of beneficent activity and will, I trust, continue to flourish. The people feel entirely at home in the Unitarian body with which they affiliated 10 years ago and enjoy the fellowship that is now theirs." And here we are in 2024. And so sometimes I imagine our congregation 100 years from now. What might their minister say if they wrote a history of the next 100 years that start today? I hope it might be something like this. Today we look back upon 300 years of our congregation's history of splendid work with gratitude for those who have gone before. In spite of all the difficulties which beset its path, St. John's remains a flourishing church in Cincinnati. We've taken the lead to transform ourselves and our city, bringing connection and justice. St. John's improves the lives of those within and outside our congregation. We've helped to change the face of our city and our region, and we continue the work of this tradition, Unitarian Universalism, in which we found our home. My beloved spiritual companions, St. John's has faced some challenges, and she remains a congregation that changes lives for the better. May it always continue to be so. Blessed be. Yeah, that was the home. So now you're up.
And now a very important part of the congregation, the announcements. We are busy, so please notice what's in the e-news and what's in the bulletin, but I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. One is that next week, do not come here, because nobody will be here. We are having a joint service with First Unitarian Church at the corner of Reeser and Reading, Deeper Than the Skin by Harris and Greenway. And the time is 10:30. Their service begins at 10:30, so you also have to get going earlier, or you'll walk in late. And finally, May 12th is the choral service. St. John's Choir does 2 services a year, 2 services of music, and we've been working hard on our music, so come and enjoy the service of music on May 12th. And now, now we have Howard briefly, and then Aaron.
Next Sunday, May 5th, is Laughter Sunday. We have a special program at St. John's, a presentation by a certified laughing yoga instructor, Marlene Chartok. It's open to you all at 7 o'clock. And for the men doing the potluck dinner, please bring your partners with you. And let me know today whether you're going to have 1 or 2 people, so we set up enough places. We'll be doing something different based on my experience with snowbird potlucks in Tucson, Arizona, where everybody brings their own dishes and utensils. So we're not going to be running the dishwasher. Bring your own food to share, as well as dishware and utensils. And let me know today if you're coming for dinner. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I have a number of bullet points, so bear with me. The auction is in 2 weeks. Yee! Okay, so how do you find out things about the auction? First, listen to what I'm about to say. Second, you can go to the website. If you go to the website and you click on the Community tab, the Auction 2024 link is there. You can also ask me questions by emailing me at auction@stjohnsuu.org. Offerings are due today. If on Wednesday you cannot sleep or you are sleeping and all of a sudden you just wake up and you have this amazing idea for an event or a service, I have been known to take some late submissions. How do you offer things? Well, I will have paper forms with me. Just look for the hat. You can email me information, or if you go to the website, there is an online submission form. We already have a lot of handmade items and gift cards. We are always interested in getting more of those. But I would really love to see more events or more services. So services can be very simple. It can be offering to take someone to the airport, or vacuuming out their car, or helping proofread a document. You don't have to have a master's degree in whatever it is in order to offer it. Don't forget to pre-register. You can pre-register from the link on the page. That allows you to pay the day of the $10 registration fee as opposed to the non-pre-registered $12 fee. And then, as of this morning, I put up the link for the Sign Up Genius for our slots, either Friday night before, May 10th, to help set up and decorate, some hours beforehand to set up, and then some services during the event. And then also on Sunday when we do our leftovers second auction during the service and after. I think that's it. Because we will not be here next Sunday, please drop off any physical items, which are things like the gift baskets that we've agreed on or the handmade items, by May 3rd on Saturday, and put them in Nightingale. If you have any gift cards, as long as I know about them, you can bring them as late as the day of. So I think that's it. But if you think of something you need to know, come find me and I will tell you. All right, bye.
As we honor the past, may we go forward into the future to create the church we hope to be. Go in love, go in peace, go into Kroll Pfeiffer, because there's lots of food in there for you. And rejoicing.
I'll take it. I can never remember what it is that goes around love. So maybe I need the picture. So
Some
I
of
can
my colleagues are doing justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity, jetpig as a way to remember. Many of them are getting little pigs with jetpacks.
Sure, that sounds good. Everybody needs a mnemonic.
I'm kind of waiting for it to pass before I do. Do you have some food?
We made it.
I'm bringing Addie to the choir concert
Oh, excellent.
on the 12th, so we'll probably be over there, but I'm
Okay.
looking forward to it.
Excellent.